Thank you for joining us today. This is the first sharing talk in our KT Professional Talk Series 2025-26, titled Bridging Academia and Industry, Exploring the Potential for Applying Your Research Beyond Academia. So before we start our sharing today, may I invite Alice from the KT Sub-Office to provide a brief introduction of the KT Sharing Talk Series. Alice, please.
I'm happy to introduce the KT Professional Talk today. And actually, the talk series consists of three components. The first one is KT Sharing, and we also have other two components, including the IP Talk for the intellectual property training. And the third component is the technology fund sharing. We will give you some tips, for example, to apply ITF, the SCF, and Smart Travel Fund, kinds of funding. Yeah.
So today we are honored to have Professor Alison Truelove, the Director of the Centre for Innovation in Business Education at the University of Exeter, UK. She leads the business school's approach to teaching enhancement and student academic success, and her extensive experience enrich our understanding of the interaction between academia and industry.
So we are a Research England funded project. So Research England is part of UKRI, which is the main government route to funding research in the UK. We have £5 million over 4 years of the project. So we've been going for a couple of years already. We're about halfway through the project. And our focus is on supporting early career researchers, and that includes people who are undertaking PhDs, doctoral study, and to help them to think about how they might engage beyond academia to make their research more impactful, but also to improve their career prospects. So as a project, as I said, we're about halfway through our project now, and we have spent most of the first 2 years of the project undertaking research. So really trying to understand what the barriers are to good collaboration with external bodies or organisations, and what the enablers and motivators are for researchers to do that external engagement that will lead to potential commercialisation of their work, but also to inform their research to make it more impactful. So we've been running focus groups, we've been running surveys, we've been learning from the literature. We have been undertaking a very broad mapping of the wider landscape of the provision that already exists in universities and elsewhere to train researchers to be better at being business aware. And that research is then feeding into a programme of activity. So I'm going to talk you through now a little bit about some of the work that we've been doing in our surveys and our focus groups. So we've run one particularly really interesting survey. There's an organisation called the CBI in the UK that represents industry, and we partnered with them to run a survey to understand how industry currently work with universities and with researchers, and what they thought were the blocks in this working effectively, but also what would motivate them to do this better. So on the left-hand side here, you can see the main things that came out of that survey that industry wanted when they were thinking about working with researchers in university. So if we turn to then the researcher surveys and focus groups that we've run, you can see already in items 3 and 4 in that list, they are the same as what industry wants here. It's more networking and increased visibility of opportunities. So there is a huge amount of alignment between what industry and what researchers want there, but there is still some work to do to overcome those. So to give you a sense of some of the networking opportunities that we're developing as a project, and again, some of these you may have yourselves access to already. Simple things like signposting, simple things like advertising things through newsletters and websites and so on, social media. We're developing a toolkit as well, not only for the skills, but also for networking. We're running things like communication skills workshops to raise the confidence of researchers to articulate their research to people outside of academia. We're running non-academic workplace visits, literally getting researchers out of their normal context of a university and taking them into a business place to help them understand how business works differently and to demystify what it means to work with someone outside of academia. And then cluster matchmaking. So again, we're looking at whether we can matchmake researchers and put them into coaching or mentoring or simply peer-to-peer support relationships. So again, build that understanding so that the industry side are not misunderstanding what researchers do and researchers are not misunderstanding what industry does. So now to think about you as a researcher, if you're sitting in this session as a researcher yourself and you're thinking, well, what can I do at an individual level? I've just tried to put together some findings from the project here that will maybe push you in the right direction. The QR code there takes you to our website. My contact information is there. Please do link up with me on LinkedIn if you're on there. And again, the website address is at the bottom. And again, please feel free to email me